Welcome everybody. Warning, here's what every runner needs to know about self-massage. Welcome everybody, it's Jason Barlow, RMT, and I'm here as your therapist and as your coach to help you transform any stress, tension, and pain into health, happiness, and vitality. This week, we're gonna dive into what you need to know, especially if you're a runner, even if you're not a runner and you're active on your feet. Or as me, I'm on my feet most of the day being a massage therapist, maybe your workplace, but regardless, everybody's going to benefit from this advice. The reason being is even if you're not up and on your feet, whenever you're sat for a prolonged period of time, and that could be driving, could be at home, could be at the desk, nevertheless, when you're in that position, your knee is bent very often. And when the knee is bent, all the posterior lower extremity muscles of the leg that we're talking about today are shortening and tightening. So the bottom line is I've directed this at runners, but anybody listening right now is going to benefit from this advice. So take heed. Let's dive into today. Quick story for you. And I remember it was probably about it's got to be over 10 years ago, the Vivo barefoot shoes. Did you guys ever get any of those Vivo barefoot shoes? It was kind of like putting a glove on your foot. So each independent toe goes into its own independent sleeve, so to speak. And then it was a very thin base to the shoe, very thin sole. The idea being was you're very close then to being barefoot. I've certainly dabbled in literal barefoot running, and then I decided to experiment with this Vivo barefoot shoe. In fact, I think it was reversed. I think I got the shoes first, and then I tried the literal barefoot and went on the sand. But the point being, I just got these shoes, quite excited to go out. I was running at the time, and so I went out and tried to duplicate what I would normally do, but just with the Vivo barefoot running shoe. So as I ran out and ran probably about 5 minutes in, and bearing in mind, I believe most of that first kilometer was on a pathway, right? So concrete, sidewalk paving, that kind of material. And as I was running, I could just feel more pain, I'll say, rising in my foot. And then it stemmed into the calf. And I stopped, thankfully. I didn't push through that. But I did end up tearing. Now it was small tear, thankfully. It didn't take too long to heal. It was probably about a month I had to take off of running, but it did lead to me tearing some of that calf muscle, and I sprained my foot at the same time. And since that time, I've certainly learned of what I did at that time was when I'd gone out, I went obviously full tilt. I didn't do any intervals. I just went straight into the barefoot, trying to do what I'd normally do. And I was running improperly. So the whole idea behind this barefoot Vivo shoe was that you are trying to land more on the mid forefoot. So that's the front of the foot, kind of here, the toes. There's the midfoot and there's the heel at this end. And what I was doing was pretty much staying on the toes. I was actually running improperly in these shoes. Anyway, further experimentation after I'd healed from that, I then learned that you can still run with the barefoot style of landing the foot, but still use a regular running shoe. Because we've not evolved in the Western world, certainly from a child age, being barefoot or running barefoot for that matter. We're usually dependent upon shoes. And as a result, and you got to bear in mind too, that very often the running surfaces that we're on are not very forgiving. If we were running on the soil or the sand, then that might be different. We could get away a bit more with this style of running. The bottom line is, though, we're typically not. And so I encourage you to use your traditional running shoe, but definitely look at fostering that style of running called barefoot running. And I believe it was Professor Lieberman at Harvard University. If you just Google his name, I'll try and put the blurb on the comments below. And he did a lot of great anatomy study of the body and evolution, tied it all together and looked at running. And so he's got some great research that's available for you to go review, and videos also that show you that style of running that we're referring to. The bottom line is that instead of that generic heel strike, roll forward onto the toes, you're landing more on the mid forefoot. So that's the front and the mid at almost the same point in time. You're landing here. There's a slight heel strike, but as soon as it's touching, it's coming back off. So that's going to minimize straight away the amount of impact that's traveling through the heel of your ankle, the posterior part of your leg, which includes the tibia and the fibula and the femur bone above, and the way that those forces are being attenuated by all the muscles, it alters that whole mechanic. And so I just recommend, beyond the scope of what I'm talking about today, definitely if you are a runner, you should explore and dabble and experiment to see how that works for you. Now, let's get to the core of what we're getting to today, which is about self-massage and about specifically the calf muscle. Now, there's several muscles that make up the group of muscles on the posterior part of your lower leg. So that large, bulky muscle is what we call the gastrocnemius. If we were to peel that away, then below it would be the soleus muscle. Those two in particular are the muscles that blend with the Achilles tendon that then scoops underneath and becomes the plantar fascia on the base of the foot. 9 times out of 10, plantar fasciitis is arising due to tension, over tension that's building up in the gastroc and soleus muscles. Why? Partly, like I said at the beginning, with sitting position. Those muscles are in a shorter, tighter position, being in that flexed knee. And then we're usually walking and jogging and or running and putting demand through these muscles more and more, that as a result, if you've read my book, I talk about it a lot, we build up postural debt. And that postural debt is what we're trying to mitigate and minimize on a daily basis. Because if we're not, then it's building up. And that's what we class in the category of, there's 2 types of injury. And that category that I'm referring to is called slow motion injury. The other category is trauma. What I experienced when I went and ran and did what I did, it was trauma to my body. I just did too much in too short a time frame, and I caused that sprain and I caused that strain. The slow motion injury is what we're mostly accumulating on a daily basis by way of our postures and how we use our body, and we're not taking enough time to pay off that postural debt. It accumulates, it builds up to the point where it says, you know what, I need you to listen, and we're going to cause some type of symptom, and hopefully they'll listen. Those symptoms are usually quiet and discreet, but they're there. But you're like, well, I'm okay, I'll push through that. And the pushing through is what leads to a greater symptom and a greater symptom, until eventually the body says, right, you're not listening, you're not doing as I'm asking, so I'm going to shut you down completely, and forces you to lay down. The laying down is then when the healing is actually taking place. So we've got to be cautious for ourselves, right? We've got to listen to our bodies. Our bodies are communicating with us all the time. Are we taking the advice when we're receiving it, and suitably using coaches and therapists around you to surround and help you understand those messages and give you the appropriate advice by way of rest or activity or not, or when? And so take that on board. As far as the massage that we're exploring today, and I've put the instructional video below in the comments, you'll see that pop up afterwards. You just copy and paste that, or sometimes it might actually be an active link. You just click on it, it'll send you straight to my YouTube video that I've put together for you. It shows you exactly how to massage the calf muscle, in particular the gastrocnemius and the soleus, a little bit through the Achilles. Now understand, when you're massaging through that whole muscle belly, you're also influencing all the other regions around that muscle, which includes some of the plantaris, the plantaris muscle, the popliteus muscle, the flexor muscles of the toes, and then we've also got the tibialis posterior in that region too. So you are still influencing those muscles, but primarily the target's got to be those larger muscles of the gastroc and soleus, what we collectively call the calf muscle. Following me so far? Okay, so the self-massage that I'm teaching you is primarily using either just your fingers, your hand, your palm, or a ball. There are additional tools, which you'll see I demonstrate in the video. If you have a percussive massager, which is like the Theragun and those kind of products, then you can obviously use that as a tool too. The whole purpose of any kind of massage, remember, is to create a reaction in the muscle. That reaction is driving blood and attention of nerves to that region. So the brain is getting stimulation and going, okay, there's clearly something we need to do in this area. Let's drive all the appropriate neuromuscular reactions to that region so that we can feed the right hormones, feed the right resources, and that nutrition that you've been consuming by way of your food can get delivered to those muscles to help with that repair. That's the bottom line, what massage is very effective at doing. It's increasing the temperature to the tissue. Now, the next step is considering the intensity. Greg Glassman, the founder of CrossFit, says, Intensity is the shortcut to results. Now, if you come and see me for a massage, and some of you have, you know that I'm an intense massage therapist. And I'll qualify intense in the pressure. It's a whole lot of love that comes behind that. And everybody that comes, you understand that, right? And so the intensity behind it is synonymous with you going in the weight room and lifting. Let's say you're trying to get a stronger bicep and you just go with a 5-pound weight. Well, yeah, you're moving it, but you're not going to get much by way of result. If I give you a 25-pound weight and that's now more of a challenge, but you can still do it, that's when we're going to start getting some real results. Now, after you've done that 25-pound, 10 repetitions, 3 sets, the next day, what are you going to feel? You're going to feel some soreness. That soreness is the illustration that you've actually done enough of what we call overload to that region to qualify a reaction that's going to give rise to a stronger muscle. It's the same when it comes to massage. The intensity is key because that is what's going to create a transformation in the muscle tissue. Now, when you're doing this at home, I recommend to stay within the pressure range. Now, 1 being very minimal, 10 being very maximum, right? Real intense. I don't recommend at home to go anything higher than that 8, maybe 9. But seriously, that 8 to 10 or 9, 10 is where a skilled therapist, because we understand the anatomy, we understand the nerve tissues, we understand the location of any bursal sacs, which are fluid-filled sacs. You don't want to go hard massaging yourself at home on any of those types of regions because it creates more types of symptoms for you. So I just recommend in that 6 to 8 pressure range, a little bit less if you need to, but listen to your body. But doing this type of massage is actually going to create, it's going to liberate, it's going to free up the adhesion and tension that's building up in those calf muscles. And especially if you're, I'll say that again 3 times, but faster, especially if you're susceptible to calf issues and buildup of tension, or cramps is another big one that I see. This is an area that you definitely want to get in and massage yourself on a regular basis. And then come and see me if you can, because I'll certainly take care of your calves in no time. And remember, all muscles matter. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you found the benefit. If you have and you want to share that with your friends and family, please forward that video on. Remember also, if that's just one little teaser for you today, you can get 14 more from my book, the 15-Step Playbook for Pain Relief. You just have to go to my website, which is www.jasonbarlowrmt.com. Leave me your email. I'll fire off this free digital copy. Folks, get on this as quick as you can if you've not got a copy, because I can't tell you when. Probably in the next 2 months, it's not going to be free anymore. It's going to be just a single chapter that's free. To get the book, there'll be a small cost, but I'm working on a program right now that's going to go together with that will expand on just the 15 steps and how to integrate these and build that 10-minute-a-day program. Are you interested in a 10-minute-a-day program to help keep your muscles healthy and you happy? It's a brilliant, I'm seriously excited about putting this out to people. So it's coming. I'm working on it right now. I'm building on lesson number 4. There's 8 lessons to put together and some other materials that are coming together. Anyway, I'm going to zip it and thank you. Remember, your muscle health is my #1 priority. Thank you for joining me. Take care, and we'll see you guys on